My study was on the youth of physical activity in Hawaii. So I chose multi-level analysis of student activity levels in Hawaii physical education classes. I really tested a Hawaii model school program, which is a Healthy Hawaii initiative. It's a program that is sponsored by the State Department of Health. Uh, Here they have different sorts of campaigns, um, all health promotion based. And essentially, what they did with this study was they had 9 model schools and 7 focused on enhancing PE. So they all had um, certain guidelines to follow. So they all had curriculum and assessment, protocols, professional development. They all implemented wellness guidelines and so on and so forth there. So the study purpose was to assess student physical activity levels in PE classes at the model schools and determine which associations with teacher and class characteristics. Why this is important. Um, Hawaii school students, only 21% of Hawaii high school youth get the recommended amount of physical activity, which is 60 minutes per day. Males are twice as likely than females to meet those recommendations. So here they're trying to assess the effectiveness of PE classes where the recommendation is 50% of the time students are physically active. The types of school activities they used were Spark, Fitness for Life curriculum. They had some culturally tailored PE electives. They integrated technology. They focused on new physical education and lifetime sports, while also environmental improvements were enhanced. So they uh, made new fitness rooms or new walking paths, and they had fitness day celebrations. Let's move on to the eval, the methods and analysis. So it was a multi-level analysis, but the meat of this study was utilized with the System for Observing Fitness Instruction Time, the SOFIT. So observation was collected one time at these model schools during the 3rd year of this PE curriculum at the model schools. So what they did was they coded for student variables such as gender and then physical activity levels. Essentially, there was a sedentary code 1, 2, and 3, and then there was an activity. MVPA will be moderate to vigorously physically active 4 and 5. They also coded for class size, class level, because they had elementary, middle, and high school PE curriculums. They also coded for teacher gender, and they observed teacher behavior. So they also coded for giving praise and encouragement from the teacher, and they scaled that from a 1 to 4, 1 being very low, 4 being very high. So the way SOFIT was utilized was that 4 target students were selected per PE class. It was an interval sampling, so the data collector took 12 observations of that student on 20-second intervals, and they examined the association between student physical activity levels and teacher class variables. So it was a multi-level modeling, and it was conducted using the HLM7 stats software. Moving on to the results, you could see right here on the left the PE teachers, PE classes, and number of students, types of schools, 3 elementaries, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. What they saw was there was 5 female PE teachers. They accounted for 36.4% of the PE classes. When we move on to the results, we'll show why that's significant. Here in the results, 52.3% of the students were observed being moderate to vigorously physically active, so it was greater than 50% of the time. So they met and essentially exceeded the recommended values for MVPA. You could see the student MVPA levels range from 0 to 91.7%. So a very large range there. Average class size was about 20. 41.7 of those students were girls. The average percentage for MVPA within the girls was 42.7. Average with the boys was 55.1. So that was that correlated to the overall consensus that boys are more moderately to vigorously physically active than girls. The overall average was 50%. The average levels of observed teacher behaviors. So the praise was observed at a 2.8 out of 4 scale, the encouragement 2.7, and enthusiasm 3.8. The difference in the percentage of moderately to vigorously physically activity between the boys and girls was statistically significant. Moving on to the discussion. So the model school physical activity, the model school PE curriculum allowed the classes to achieve the recommendation of 50% activity during those class times. Where we cited that there was only 36.4% of the PE classes were taught by female teachers. They saw that female students had a higher level of MVPA when they had a female teacher. So that could be something to look into for further studies to see if there's a true correlation there. This is a rather small sample size, so to really strengthen that theory, there needs to be a larger sampling. Also, further research is needed to examine the validity of applying multi-level modeling techniques to the observation data, the SOFIT data. So the key findings were that boys had significantly higher levels of percentage of MVPA than girls. Implications there would be studies where the intervention would be to increase the female MVPA to get those levels equal to or higher than the boys. And also the smaller class sizes were associated with higher student activity levels. And interestingly, the elementary level PE classes had lower levels of MVPA than the middle and high school. So I'm wondering if the curriculum they used associated better with middle and high school and less with the elementary level PE classes. That would be something to look into, types of curriculum that increase MVPA within the different types of levels of PE classes. The teacher gender was not a significant predictor of MVPA. However, the interaction term between student gender and teacher gender was significant for females. So like we said, that would be an interesting study to move forward. The teacher behaviors were not significantly associated with student percentage MVPA, but there could be studies where certain types of cues may not improve MVPA. I got about 30 seconds left. For the importance of physical activity with Hawaii youth, this Healthy Hawaii initiative has a newsletter, and they're really trying to increase physical activity and overall healthy living for the youth and also the adults of Hawaii, where overall we're deemed a healthy state, but there are many students enter one in a, a third of students in kindergarten are deemed overweight or obese. So there is an issue there. So this newsletter has some pretty interesting aspects. There's a charter school here that they start 4 days a week with students, 45 minutes of physical activity where they can choose from different components from yoga to dance to running to gardening, really like a lifelong health and wellness type approach. So there's a lot of things out there for the kids and many ideas for further studies. Thank you.